Hello all, welcome to this session. In this session, I am going to answer one of the Java interview questions. That is, can you create a final variable without initializing it? The answer is no. In Java, when you create a variable and specify that variable with final modifier, it is mandatory to initialize that particular variable. There are two ways to initialize such kind of variable specified with final modifier. Either you can initialize that variable, that is assign the initial value to that particular variable in the same line where it is declared and specified with final modifier, or there's another way where you can create a constructor, okay, and you can initialize that particular final variable with a value inside the constructor, okay. So there are two ways, guys, okay. Either of the ways you have to choose to initialize the final variable in Java, but without initializing, it is not possible, guys. If you don't initialize the variable either in the same line or in the constructor, Java will immediately give you a compiler error. Okay, so it is not possible to create a final variable without initializing it in Java. Okay, let me practically demonstrate this one. Further, I'll switch to Eclipse IDE and I'm going to create a new class and just name this class as class R with main method I'll create. Okay, so it can be any method, that's okay, some method. And now here I'm going to create a variable, let's say int a. Okay, I'm not getting any error. You see, when I'm declaring this variable with some data type like int, I'm not getting any error. Once I provide final modifier, once I specify the final modifier before this variable, I'm getting an error. The blank field may not have been initialized. Java is saying that Java is already giving me a compiler error saying that you have to initialize this variable. How to initialize? Either in the same line. I have to assign some initial value to this variable in the same line. You see, error is gone. Or if you don't want to initialize in the same line, there's another way where you can create a constructor. Okay. The constructor, when you create, will not have any return type and the name of the constructor should match with the name of the class. Okay. Either in the same line you initialize, or you see the moment you create a constructor, you see the error with this final int a statement is gone. Okay, now Java understands that you may initialize this particular variable in the constructor, so that's the reason it's giving compiler error at a different place saying the blank field a may not have been initialized. Try to initialize that in the constructor. Okay, if you want to initialize this value of this final value variable a here, that's okay, it's saying. Okay, but if you don't create a constructor, here itself you'll get the error. If you create a normal method, let's say public void sample method, let's say, the error will not be gone from here. You see, it's not Java is not saying that to you to initialize this variable in this particular method. But if it is a constructor, then it will take this error from this place to the constructor, because it believes that maybe if you are in a plan of initializing this particular variable in the constructor rather than initializing in the same line. Okay, so in method we cannot initialize a final variable, but in the same line where the final variable is created, you can initialize, or you can initialize the value to that particular variable in the constructor. You see, I have initialized the value to this particular variable in the constructor. Java is fine with that. Okay, either I have to initialize here or I have to initialize here. Okay, but if I do something like this, you see, this is a final value. You cannot update. Okay, once you initialize, it's not allowed to again modify the value of this particular variable in the constructor. That's not allowed, guys. Okay, only one place you have to initialize. Either you want to initialize in the first line, the same line where the final variable is created, or you want to initialize that in the constructor. That is up to you, guys. Okay, only those two ways you have to choose. Okay, so hope, guys, with practical demonstration you got the answer for this question. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Bye bye.